and new friends. We have a lot of new friends. Arash, you have a lot of friends who like you because when we were getting the registrations in, I'm thinking now that's Arash's friend because I don't know this person at all, and it was great to see people wanting to hear what you have to say today.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. So we're going to be starting with Arash. Arash and I met actually over the summer. So we had all of these webinars over COVID, and you know it was quite the amazing journey to do all these webinars. And you know we're not sure if we'll do this on a regular basis right now, but we did have some amazing Zoom coffees, and I found the treasures in that were hidden in the names on the side, and Arash is one of them. And we had such an amazing coffee, and he was sharing with me so many of his ideas and things that he believes are so important for leaders right now. And how many do you know that it really does take a new style of leadership right now? I mean, how many of you have said, and how many of you have felt that we've never led here before? We've never been in this place before. And maybe Abe, I don't know if you want to say something to that, just leadership right now in where we're at in this stage of COVID.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a crazy time, and I think, you know, without a doubt, I think part of the goal for leaders in general, I mean, the best leaders are always students, and they're always teachable. And sure, they're strong, but that doesn't mean that they think they have it all figured out. And I personally believe, if anything, that COVID has given that strength or that idea some real impetus. And so I don't know about the rest of you, but every single day it's like, what am I going to learn today, right? And you know, in a lot of ways that keeps it light, that keeps it fun, right? I mean, the moment you think you have it figured out, just wait a couple of moments, literally, in today's like media and sort of a world landscape, and you'll be shocked, right? So we're pretty excited, you know?
Yeah, so true. Well, and even this webinar, this was going to be live at our new office space, which has an amazing event venue. And, you know, we put it out there, and either people are used to Zoom. I mean, isn't it wonderful? How many meetings have I been late for in the last 6 months? Maybe 2. How many meetings am I late for on a regular basis when I meet in person? You know, more than 2. So the convenience of Zoom for you not to have to leave your office, and also concerns. There are some actual real concerns out there. And so for us to be able to still offer this through the Zoom, this is great. And so I want to welcome Arash here this morning, and also Graham from Toolshed Beer, Graham Sherman. He's going to be sharing as well. It's going to be a really enriching hour. And so if at any time you have questions, you know, while they're speaking, if you have a thought, please, that's what's great about the chat. But Arash, tell us a little bit about, just what's on your heart when it comes to leadership for right now.
First of all, thank you, Connie, and thank you, Wellness Innovate. Like, I attended your webinars and so some of the workshops you guys have, and you guys are contributing to the leadership for this time. What I see as, to answer your question, is that what I see as leadership is that it's not about you. And like, you know, when like, you know, I prepared some notes that I go through, and it's mainly about others. It's like how effective you are to make them empowered to be at their best version. And I saw that, like, and I share that with the people that we started the podcast with, that as a way to make that happen is that we need to listen to people and listen to what the world occurs to them. And that can make a difference. So we can build the trust, and with that trust, people can blossom in their potentials. I saw that. Yeah. Yeah. So, Connie, at about like 14 years ago, when I moved to Canada for my graduate studies, I didn't know anybody. I had limited language abilities. And above all, I wasn't familiar with the culture. Uh, Probably like many others, many other immigrants, I experienced isolation, loneliness, and I felt that I don't belong here. But when I see that, it's like we all know that we share all these feelings, and it's not only the immigrants who share this, and others, including myself, after being here for 14, 15 years, would experience the same in other situations. The point that I want to make is, regardless of our background and culture, uh, ethnicity, and any circumstances that we are in, we are not alone in our circumstances. We are not alone in our experiences, sorry. And after all, we are all human. However, if we see that, in most cases, it seems like we do not want to make the effort to get in each other's world and understand that world. I see that even with my interactions with my dad, whom I love the most, and I know he loves me. Whenever we argue about my choices, I don't see him as caring for me. Instead, I see him that he's judging me. And at the bottom of, at bottom of my heart, I know that he cares for me, and he's probably trying to give me some messages, and I don't want to listen to that. And if you think about it, we do that all the time, even with the people that are close to us, like our partners, our kids, parents, colleagues, employees, or our leaders. Also, we do that with the people that are not very close to us. I don't know, like a certain politician and their supporters, people from different ideologies and cultures. And the list can go on and on and on. When I look back and when I see this, I believe that that's why there's so much of resignation and resentment and hatred in our societies. And after all, we don't understand each other. And that is the recipe of these things. And that is why we started the podcast. Our podcast is a place to practice listening to what people are dealing with and how the world occurs to them. Our podcast is pretty simple. Our guest chooses a topic and share his or her story and experience in that specific topic. And we listen as hosts. Sounds simple. But it wasn't that easy for myself and other people that are in the podcast with me. By the way, when I say that we listen, it doesn't mean that we are silent over there. We actually ask questions and engage with people over there. And sometimes we share our experiences about the same topic too. And that's, to me, is part of the listening, part of the connection that we make with people. And our podcast is just the arena to practice that, and what we do that everywhere in our lives, including at work, including in our business, and including in our life, anything. What made that available to me is that when I'm at the podcast, I'm intentionally listening to people. And that intentional listening to people, through that process, I realized that one of the obstacles in my listening is my inner voice. It acts as a filter and puts things in boxes. And this filter not only impacts me and the contribution that I can get from that person, but also impact the other person. I'll give you an example. Let's say I have, and this is real, but long ago, if there's an employee that keeps missing the deadlines over and over for weeks, and I put him in, for me, I make it up in my mind that he's lazy. And that is the filter, right? So all my interactions, now he's in the box of being lazy, all my interactions with him comes from that listening of him being lazy. Right? Like, there is no possibility there. Like, there is no opportunity for improvement. And I'm pretty sure that this actually impacts his performance. However, the chances are he is anything except being lazy. Like, I just made that up. It's just a story that my mind makes it. Realizing that, and through the intentional listening, I realized that it's more vivid to me. It's so obvious to me that if I stay curious and be in the inquiry to what's happening in his world, I can understand it and I can address the issue. There was another example that I share. It's in my recent years. A couple of years ago, when I took over the team, there was an employee that there were a lot of comments about him that he's not a good employee and he needs to let go because he's not working. He's a slacker. That's the word that I heard. When I talked to him, I intentionally tried to look at him differently. And I saw that he's actually very engaged with the projects that he is involved. And I shared with him what I heard, and I shared with him that, like, I don't see it that way. I'm not gonna get into the whole story, but that listening of me actually impacted him. Now, 2 years later, he is one of the key performers in my team. Like, I received recommendations from different departments about his performance that I didn't receive about my performance when I was at his role. So basically what I'm trying to say is that the way that people show up for you actually impacting them and impacting you. One of the important things for me was that when I listen intentionally to people, I can transform the listening of myself. A few days ago, one of our guests was sharing about his experience with depression. I remember he used a metaphor in Farsi that was 10 times more extreme than something like battling through hell and misery, and he came out of it. As I also dealt with the serious depression in my mind, in my life, at first, in my mind, I said that, come on, man, like it wasn't that bad. But when I brought back my listening to him, I realized that I actually battled through hell to get here. And reconstructed myself out of that person. After the session, I was talking with Hassam and I asked him if I can share this with you guys. He also has a history of depression and he went through the same experience. And now, like, we kind of like said, oh damn, like, we actually can be proud of ourselves that, like, we came out of it. Now, how it showed up in my life is that I usually don't share about my history of depression at work. But after this, I think it was a day or two after, I was having lunch with two of my colleagues. And one of them shared about his difficulties through the pandemic. It sounded very familiar to me. And I shared about my experience with dealing with depression. And at the end of the conversation, it came out that 3 of us dealt with or are dealing with depression, and none of us were apologetic for it. But before that, we never shared that with each other. And like, what I see as a possibility over there is that, like, we can actually support each other. Like, I mentioned that, like, our company is going through some changes, and both of them actually called me this morning to check up on me, say, like, how am I doing? So it can, when you listen to someone, you can get something that at the beginning, maybe you want to stop from listening to it. But when you listen to it, you see, like, there is some truth to it. You see yourselves in them. And it's pretty amazing experience, by the way. What I see as listening, so, and I'm gonna go to, like, how it's related to leadership. What I see as a listening is a habit. And what I experienced with you guys, Wellness, Innovate, and Connie, like, in your uh, in your webinars and in the resilient workshop, that's actually you listen to people, and that actually impressed me. Listening to me is a habit, and developing a habit requires practice. Practice of listening to me is intentionally to listen to people. Like, you know, I make an intention that I'm going to listen to, and that happens at the podcast as well. That helps me to acknowledge and put aside all my filters and judgment and listen. To me, it's like meditation. Like, you know, in meditation, for those of you who does meditation, your mind starts to wander, but then you bring it back. And it's the same with listening. You keep bringing back the listening to the story and what is being communicated and what the person is experiencing. And there is like meditation that a lot of people do that for their lifetime. Listening is the same thing. Like, you know, you cannot be the best. You can always practice. It's a mountain with no top, as some say. The other thing that for me, like, you know, to keep it as a habit is that habit doesn't happen overnight. If I do that intentionally once, it's like going to the gym. If I go to the gym once, twice, or 3 times, it does not make a difference. It needs to be consistent. And one of the things that I realize about myself, and I see that probably it works for the Childish podcast, is that we see listening as an identity. In our podcast, we identified ourselves as the ones who listens to what people are dealing with and what's happening in their life. And that is our commitment. And it is us and it is me in my life. So we touched on it, like, you know, a little bit at the beginning, that how this is related to leadership. As I mentioned earlier, in my view, leadership isn't about you, isn't about the leader. It's about how effective the leader is to empower others to achieve their potential or to be the best version of themselves. And you cannot inspire and empower people if you don't listen to them, because it's not about you, it's about them. And through this listening, you build the trust. Like, you know, they can trust you and you can trust them. Like, you know them and they know you. And when people are trusted, to my view, and like, you know, in any leadership role that I took, and are trained, of course, for what they are supposed to do, or what is their world of influence, as some say, they found out they can achieve things that are never imagined, even by themselves. If you don't have the confidence and have the trust, on the other hand, of all these things, many things you can do with that person. You can supervise them, you can tell them what to do, but you cannot lead them. You cannot get them to be the best version of themselves. They always, like, you know, get back to you. And that's what I think, even with the new technologies, with the new COVID structure, like everybody is working from home, you cannot supervise people. It's actually not practical. You cannot be at people's homes, but you can lead them. You find what they're dealing with and what is important to them, and build that trust, and they can deliver things that you couldn't even imagine. I think I'm going over time. I'm gonna leave you guys with this. I was talking to Hassam yesterday, and we actually agreed to this, that all of us are leaders. We're the leaders without titles. Like, we're not necessarily leader at work, but we are all leaders at our life. And as a leader in our lives, I want you guys to imagine a world that everyone is heard and seen and accepted for what they are. And I can only imagine what that world can look like. Like, you know, it's gonna be amazing. I don't think there will be any of the things that we see these days that is not pleasant to us.
I agree. Arash, when you talk, I think we're all just kind of taking what you say in, because first of all, I want to acknowledge this is exactly what we talked about over our coffee, and this was what moved my heart. Because here you are, you know, you're from Iran, and you know, you moved here 15 years ago, you said?
Almost 15, yes.
Almost 15. And you know, we talked about what it's like to move to a new country and to be a leader and to know that you have leadership and to maybe sometimes be misunderstood as someone from the Middle East and all the different things that go on around that in somebody's mind. And yet, you know, here you are, the humility that you carry as a leader yourself and somebody who is, I want to lean in, I want to listen. And what I heard from you was substantial, because a lot of times people are wanting to be heard. I want you to hear me. I need to speak my truth. I want you to know where I'm coming from. And not only do we lead from that place often, but we live from that place often. And what I see from you is a completely different spirit. It's a completely different, it's a culture shift. And when you were talking about that, I thought this is what leaders need right now. We needed this 10 years ago, but if there's any time we need to know how to lead people, it is to serve. Leadership is serving. Leadership is coming alongside. Leadership is about others. And a huge part of what you said is that it's about listening. And what does everyone want? We all have this in common. The one thing is that we all want to be understood. That's it. When someone feels understood, they will be their best. They will be the best employee. If we call them, like you said, lazy, well, we've just set the bar for them. But if we see what's good and we call it out and we walk alongside and we listen and we mentor, then there's a possibility that we see people's best. And I just think that you're amazing. There was a question Bonnie had asked. She's curious about how you reconstructed yourself and pulled out the weeds in your mindset to be able to create this listening mindset. Like, how did you do this, Arash?
I like I share with you, like, you know, there was this song called "Sound of Silence." Like, you know, I remember when I was dealing with depression, and I was going to counseling, and I was talking. Basically, the short answer is, like, you know, through sharing. Like, you know, it's actually sharing that, like, what's going on in me, and there was professional listening to me. And I started sharing that with the support group. And, like, you know, when I felt that, like, you know, I'm accepted, and, like, you know, I accept the fact that, like, you know, I'm in that space, I start turning, right? Like, you know, it goes up. Like, it was a long process. Like, but I share that, like, probably some of you guys have heard this before, and this is one of my favorite part of this song. It says, like, and in the naked light, I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never share, and no one dared to disturb the sound of silence.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love that. Arash, could you make sure that you put in the chat how to reach you? Because I'm sure people are going to want to reach out to you. Let them know about your podcast. I think, I'm not sure if you've released it yet, but I'm long awaiting. I'm waiting to hear your podcast. So any information you have, please put it in the chat. But Abe, anything to add?
Well, I just appreciate, you know, the the fact that, you know, today social media has made it very easy for us to talk at each other and past each other rather than to really listen. And I think, you know, everything you shared today is such a great reminder of that. And I think, you know, it's kind of a tragedy, because oftentimes the people that we think we might not like the most, based on what we see online or based on what we hear about them, when you actually sit down with them and you hear their heart, it's amazing the shift that can occur. But, you know, the problem we have today is people aren't allowing themselves to do that. They're more interested in speaking than hearing and listening, and they're certainly often just sort of echoing, you know, whatever their political hobby horse happens to be. And I think it's a tragedy because, you know, at the end of the day, what do we need most for our mental health? Well, you know, we understand that it's connection. And yet, how can we have connection if we're not listening? And so, you know, I just really want to honor you and thank you for sharing what you shared today, because it's a powerful reminder, and it's a simple message that is so critical in this day and hour.
Thank you, guys. Hey, thank you, guys.
Yeah, we do honor you. We honor you as somebody who is creating the culture that you want. If you don't like what you see, create it. That's what Arash is doing. Beautiful.
Yes. And I'm not alone. There are other people with me, and you guys, I see that like you guys are part of it too. Thank you, guys.
You're so welcome. So welcome. Well, we are also very blessed to have Graham from Toolshed Beer here. You know, when we were thinking about leadership, there's so many people. There's so many people even in the chat right now. I think of David Schmeckel. Every time I go for coffee with him, he blows my brain. And it takes me a couple of days to process everything he tells me. You got someone like a Greg in the chat here who is all about bringing people together. You know, Bonnie and all of you, every single one of you is contributing to beautiful work culture. But I want to pass it over to Graham, because Graham, you know, he's had to really pivot. I don't know what it's like to own a beer brewery in the middle of a shutdown. And he just keeps going. That's what I like about you, Graham. You just never stop. Nothing shuts you down. So welcome.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, you can't give up. There's way too many lives at stake in our business to stop now. My goodness. But yeah, I always really cherish the opportunity to share with you guys in events like this, because when you asked me to come on today and share my thoughts on leadership, it really makes me stop and look inward and think about it, because I think a lot of times we just behave instinctually, and maybe we don't actually make a decision how we lead or how we do what we do, but we kind of just fly by the seat of our pants and hope things work. But when you asked me to be a part of this, I took a moment to think about the style that I have and what I do and how I do it. And ultimately, I think everything about Toolshed goes back to, it must have been 2006 or 2007 when I first watched that Simon Sinek video. I'm sure you all have seen the Power of Why. I think the video is called How Great Leaders Inspire. And it blew my skull apart, the concept of starting from why. And the examples he used all resonated with me. I love Apple. And I remember a dear friend of mine bought me my first iPod. And he went to the store to buy it. He told me the story. He said, my buddy is the hugest Apple fan. I'm going to buy this iPod, a 1 gig shuffle. And they said, oh, we have a special on this other one. It's called a Zune MP3. And he said, listen, this is the simplest sale you're going to make all day. This guy would not accept anything but an Apple iPod. And it really makes you question why you follow, such a company or such a leader or what it is. And Simon Sinek really put it in perspective for me with that. I was following the why Apple was doing what they were doing. So when I started, Toolshed, I went through the process of trying to get to the core of why am I doing what I'm doing. And my why has always been service. And from way before I brewed beer, Connie, as you know, I've been a huge coffee fan my whole life, and I've got a coffee roaster in my basement, and I roast my own beans, and I would give nothing more. I cherish nothing more than having people to my home so I can share good times over good coffee with good people. That's in my heart, is just service and fellowship and hosting. And so, I love barbecue. This past weekend was the best Canadian barbecue competition in our country, the oldest running, longest standing barbecue competition. That's a huge love of mine. Last year, I was fortunate enough to go to the World Championships of barbecue. And I think what it takes to do something to that level when it's a silly hobby is that you have to be driven by a true and authentic and genuine why. And my why for barbecue is service. I want people to come over and try my ribs and go crazy and think like, wow, why would you focus so hard on these ribs? And again, it goes back to, I want to host and I want to serve and I want people to come to my home and say, those are the best damn ribs I've ever tried. So beer ultimately was truly the greatest, I think, impact on the passions that I had and how I wanted to serve and share with others, to see how the community around me responded to the beer I was making. I mean, and just in my little backyard tool shed, that was the impetus and that was the motivator to start all of this. I was going to say earlier, everybody has great backgrounds. These are all fake backgrounds from Zoom, right? Gabe looks like a fake back brick wall. Mine's a fake brewery. But no, it's when we started this thing and said, you know, I'm so in love with this mentality of starting a business through service. It started to creep into everything we did. We looked at how we market our products to the world, and you'll never see Toolshed go out and say, oh my God, we have the best beer on earth and our product is cheaper and it's better and we've won more awards. You know, we're very proud of the things we accomplished, but we learned pretty quickly on in our journey that the burden on our shoulders was one much bigger than just making beer and starting a business. We saw that we had to serve the craft beer community. There was challenges in our community. Oops, sorry, one sec. My little gimbal's dying here. Sorry, guys, 1 second here. I'm just gonna have to change this little guy out a bit.
No problem. You know, I was just thinking, you know, Connie, as Graham was talking, you know, just how much great leaders model connection, you know, and it's easy to talk about it, but you know, if you're not a safe person, you know, nobody's going to want to connect with you. And I'm so grateful that Graham is modeling that for us, you know, and it might be a barbecue, it might be a beer, it might be a coffee, but it might also be, you know, an opportunity to have a difficult conversation, but that safety creates that connection. So just awesome.
Well, sorry, my little gimbal,
right
my little.
Graham, we'll all be coming over for those ribs. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, my little gimbal just died, so I just put it on my computer here. Hopefully that's okay. Yeah.
I don't even know what is a gimbal. I have no idea what a gimbal is.
Oh, it just holds the camera steady, but of course, yeah, exactly.
Kind of person.
No, but you know, like I was saying, I think that when we figured out when we were trying to start a brewery, and we recognized pretty quickly that what we were trying to do was illegal in this province, that there was a burden on our shoulders to create an environment where all breweries could thrive. And so ultimately it's service towards our industry, what we've done here at Toolshed. And so, you know, today alone, there's been 2 other breweries inside Toolshed. One is a brand new brewery you're about to hear about that we're very honored to help produce their first beer. And another is a brewery on the block that's coming for some help, that needs some, you know, some equipment to serve their customers. And I think it's a different model when you are actually out to serve even your seemingly competitors in the world, but you know, that feeling of service and that true authentic desire to serve doesn't stop with just our customers. It doesn't stop with just my friends and family. I don't think actually it ever stops. So when I was looking back at how we've even marketed, I think about how, you know, I don't know if anybody's seen the Budweiser commercial or the Molson commercial, where they take that red cooler of beer to the Caribbean, they take it to some fancy guy's house and they go, look at.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Yep.
That's my son phoning me. Yeah, but it's probably going to happen again. But anyways, you know, you think about that way of that mentality of marketing, when you think, oh, look at me, look what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this cooler down and give it to somebody. Look at me. And for us, it was never about us. Our marketing was, we need to put local barley farmers on the map. That's the true heroes. We need to serve Alberta. Sorry, Luke's probably going to try a few more times.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that service mentality of thinking, okay, I'm gonna put others up on this pedestal, really starts to set a tone for what your business is going to be about. And it doesn't take very long for the people that are looking in at our businesses to make the judgment on if this is authentic or if this is a ploy to try to win people over. And, you know, people out there have an incredibly dialed in BS meter these days, and they can tell authentic and genuine right off the bat. So you can't BS people. If you're truly in your heart authentic and genuine about service, people will hoist you up on their shoulders. They'll support and they'll follow because it's a true, authentic why. It's the why that of service that people, I think, are on board with our products, that hold our products with pride, saying, I love that this is about something bigger. I love that they're serving, you know, a bigger cause, and that's a pretty important thing to us. So it's always been about service for us. It's always been about how we market. It's always been about how we do what we do. And so why would leadership in my company be any different? And Connie, when you asked me about how I lead here, I don't even know if I hate calling myself a leader, because I just feel so honored and so fortunate that I've been able to push through and find a way to be here with Toolshed. It takes a minute for me to look back and go, yeah, this team here depends on me, and I am the leader of this company. I own this company. I mean, holy crap, I better be acting like a leader. I hope I am. And I look at what I do, and I think it's 100% a concept of service based leadership. Servant leadership is a concept that is maybe not as focused on out there as maybe it should be. And if you could think about what that would mean to be a servant as a leader, and instead of telling my staff what to do, I cherish having our 9:08 meeting every morning, saying what's working, what's not, how can I remove roadblocks, how can I help you guys get done what you need to get done.
So Graham,
I think, yeah.
How do you, great, I have a great question for you. I think it's a great question. How do you get there? Like, I mean, honestly, I've been in leadership roles for 27 years. I know for a long time in my leadership, it was all about me. It wasn't about others. And I teach and train and coach leadership, and everything you're saying is 100% accurate. But how do you get to that place where from the heart, it's like servant-based, core orientation of service type leadership? Like what does that journey look like, right? Because I think there's a lot of people, they get it up here, you know, and that's, I'm pointing to my head, but they don't get it here, and that's the heart. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's a great question for sure. And I get asked this question in a kind of a different context often, is, can I become an entrepreneur? Or do I have to be born an entrepreneur? Can you make an entrepreneur? And I think there certainly are moments when people decide, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, and there's things that change people's mindsets to become entrepreneurial. I know the exact second I became an entrepreneur, for example. The desire to serve might not be as quick to come up with that type of heart, but I think that everybody can look inside and truly decide, am I somebody who's just trying to make more money? Because everybody around you will see that, including employees, including your team, including your customers. But the moment you start to get a few wins with, you know, in your heart, feeling that feeling of just the joy around you from a service mentality, it starts to manifest itself, just like anything else. You know, the more we fill our minds with it, the more it manifests itself and grows in our hearts as well. So I think that you know, as I look at the team now, we just had on Friday a great all staff off campus meeting. We did all day planning for 2021. What are we doing? What's our vision? How do we get everybody aligned? And everybody was very vulnerable and truthful and honest. And it was a really incredible day to hear from the staff why they come to Toolshed each day and choose to spend their days in this business, what they want to achieve by working here. And I think that if you have that mentality of a servant-style leader, you're listening to these responses going, how can I make this happen for these people? Okay, this person says, I love solving problems. I just cherish when I get to solve a big problem at Toolshed. and I don't want to say, okay, I'm going to give you a bunch of problems, but how can I give them that satisfying feeling of when they do, right? And there's so many examples of that. Ultimately, at the end of the meeting, what I loved the most was I came up with the big, hairy, audacious goal for the next 5 years, and I asked the staff, what do you think about this? And they said, I think that you're nuts. I don't think it's possible. I think it's completely outlandish. And I said, okay, so I agree. So if we could sit down and take bite-sized chunks, what would it look like for us to achieve this incredible goal? And the next thing you know, the staff are going, well, what we could do? And what if we did this? And what if we did that? Next thing you know, the staff came up with how to pull it off. And it's the most satisfying thing as a leader when you create an environment that allows people to come in and feel the, satisfaction of solving problems, the satisfaction of being a part of a team that accomplishes great things, and create that environment for them to be the heroes that come up with the solutions. Today, we were buzzing around this building because the staff member who came up with the next big thing that we're going to do here, it's not me. I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal. I'm trying to prop these guys up, and ultimately, I might not have them, for life here at Toolshed, but my dream is that when they go off to the next great thing that they're off to in their lives, they're going to accomplish some great stuff, and they're going to take some incredible things with you. So I think as I look back, and again, thank you, Connie, for helping me, dial into what it is about the leadership here. I started this business because I love to serve, and I market this business in a way where I serve Alberta and I serve barley farmers, and I think that I spend my days doing my best to serve my staff. And we have a new employee that just came on recently, and I went out for a full day on sales calls with her to help her out. And sometimes some of the accounts want to meet the guy behind it. So she brings me out to some big calls, and I asked her what her thoughts were so far working at Toolshed. And what she said was maybe one of the most humbling things I've ever heard. And she said, I've noticed at Toolshed that you're not a boss. I've noticed at Toolshed that people actually don't even work for Toolshed. And she said, I've noticed at Toolshed that people follow you. And that goes right back to that Simon Sinek video. People follow the why. So it's not that they love our beer. It's not that they think we're any better than the brewery next door. We have a phenomenal brewery right up the hill here who just won best brewery in Canada. And we're not frustrated by that. You know what? He was here just an hour ago asking for some help and asking to borrow equipment. And you hug that guy because you're accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish by having that type of mentality. So can you imagine what kind of honor that was to hear a staff member say, these people that come to work all day, they're following the why. They all love that type of leadership. So yeah, in wrapping it up, that's I think that's it. It's what drove me from the beginning to start brewing, and what drove me in how I market. And I think that the community around us sees that it's genuine and authentic. Otherwise, we'd already be out of business.
Yeah, Graham, I obviously watched you for a long time. Our boys are buddies, and
that's trying to call me. He's saying, yeah, I forgot my lunch.
Luke,
He's saying,
I was
order
gonna
me.
Text Luke and say, your dad is on a call, buddy.
He's saying, order me Uber Eats to school. I forgot my lunch. Yeah.
That's so cute. Yeah. But no, I literally, I watch you be like this, and service. I think a lot of people wonder, if I serve, will I lose? Mm-hmm. Will I lose if I serve? And here you are, you're serving your so-called competition. You're having your, the guy over an hour ago. And I think a lot of people feel very threatened and they might feel a little afraid. But what you've modeled here is you've said, no, actually the opposite happens. I love your call to something bigger. Let's serve Alberta, especially, in your line of work, agriculture, barley. It's bigger than just your company. You're serving our entire province and wanting to make our province thrive. I'm just, as you're talking, I'm thinking everyone in the watching, get a vision, for something bigger than you. And I think one of the greatest tragedies of COVID and quarantine was that it pulled some into themselves.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And it's that
Totally.
scarcity. But you
You nailed it.
Hmm?
Connie, you nailed it. I think it's a model of scarcity versus a feeling of abundance. And I think we talked earlier about when we got hit with COVID. You got to imagine my business has, I mean, the government shut down all of my customers, every bar and restaurant and pub, and I mean that's 70% of my sales are kegs of beer. All of it shut off. My income got shut off. My wife's income got shut off. And I remember saying, okay, who are we going to collaborate with? How are we going to help somebody and get out of this thing? And we talked about how my middle son took up guitar, and I was so pumped because I love guitar. I played a lot of guitar, and I took an older guitar I had in to get fixed, and the guitar tech said, "Oh, Graham, I'm not going to be able to fix this for 2 months." And I was shocked. And he's like, everyone on earth is playing guitar. And I thought, wow, the guitar tech is winning in COVID. Who else is winning? There are so many businesses out there that are winning. And one of them was Spud.ca. And Spud couldn't even come close to fulfilling all the orders that they were being flooded with to help Calgary. And we thought, this is it. This is how we serve Calgary. We can convert our business into an auxiliary satellite operation for Spud. They used our fridge. They used our 7,000 square foot bay to put more orders together. And that kind of thinking doesn't come if you're thinking, how do we fight for our piece of the pie? Because COVID has shrunk the pie. It's about the abundance model of, let's make a pie store. Let's make pies for everybody. It's not about a piece of the pie. It's about, let's make more pies. And that was a really fun win for the staff to see that this type of service, we went immediately into serving a neighboring business, and that kept us alive. So it requires a lot of faith. And I think going back, Abe, to your question on how do you develop this in the heart, it's like anything. You don't just get it without a pretty significant amount of faith that it's truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. It's powerful. I just feel as you're speaking, like you're just speaking life. You and Arash have been this is counterintuitive. It's counterculture. It's different. It might seem crazy to some, but when you listen, when you come alongside, when you serve, and when you get to that real why, Abe and I were talking about the 7 layers of why. Like, you think you know your why, and then just keep asking yourself why. Why do I do what I do? And dive deeper and deeper and deeper, and let that drive you, because it'll give you that oomph to get out there and keep going no matter what. And then there's always someone to serve. There's no lack. There's no lack of the opportunities out there. When others see obstacles, see opportunities, because those obstacles, they are opportunities to come alongside and expand and do things differently and not just stay in the same place. And so it's very powerful what you both have shared today. Abe, I don't know about you, but I'm just feeling pumped and ready to face the world right now.
No, for sure. And the thing I was thinking about, as you guys all know, we've been really honored, Connie and I, to talk to so many great leaders through COVID. And, the really exceptional ones are saying what you both are saying. And you're actually saying the same thing in different ways. I think it's about serving and what's the best way to serve? It's by listening. And it's been amazing, no matter the color of their skin or the religious background or the gender, even the age, the best leaders are all feeling the same thing right now. And that's why you're seeing almost this shift. And so, I don't really like COVID. I don't like a lot of the lockdown. I don't like, but if nothing else, I'm not sure that we would have come to some of these realizations the way we are collectively without it. And so if for no other reason than that, I say, hey, sign me up, because who can't be a better leader? Who shouldn't be a better leader and want to serve a little bit more? And I love that response, Graham. I felt the same thing when COVID happened. I mean, the very first thought was me. you know, and that lasted about 3 minutes in the shower one day. And then I just thought, wait a second, I can serve, I can help, I can support, I can give. And, you know, I might, by the end of this, I might not have anything left to give, who knows? But, but that's a hell of a lot better way to go out
Yeah.
than sitting in the basement counting my beans, right? I mean, what kind of way to live is that? So I love it. I love you guys both. It's just amazing.
I think our employees, you know, and the people that do follow us need that type of thinking. I mean, I know how scared I've been through COVID, but I feel like I got to put on this coat of armor and not show my family how scared I am, and not show my staff how scared I am. But meanwhile, while I'm trying to look and act and feel and portray strength and toughness, everybody's scared, and my staff are just as scared. Are they going to have a job? Is you know, their commitment to Toolshed gonna last through COVID? And it's a scary thing for everybody. And I think I think our teams collectively need us to step up and serve them in this time more than ever.
Yeah. I would love to, you know, because I know that people are inspired as they're listening to this live. You know, we're live on Facebook. We're here with the webinar, and this is going to be posted. So no matter when people are watching this, there's always this beauty that comes from hearing people like Arash and Graham, and you're like, let's go. Like, yes, that's what I want to do. But then there's this messy middle between that beautiful intention, that sounds great, and actually living it out. And so I would love to ask, you know, two really intentional questions. Who do you need to listen to today? Who around you do you need to listen to? How can you lean in and listen, like Arash was talking about, and really hear their hearts, whether you're the employer or whether you're a fellow employee or whether you're an entrepreneur all by yourself and you're living on your own? Who do we need to be listening to? And then number two, who can you serve? Who can you serve? Who can your business serve? When you show up and do what your why is, your very best, what's passionate about you, Graham's not selling beer. He's selling hospitality and connection. He's selling the opportunity for people to come together. And so think about your business. Think about what you're actually doing. For me, I'm a big seller of community. I don't sell mental health. I sell community. That is always my goal. That is always my sales pitch. And it doesn't even need to be a sales pitch because people want to come together. And so when I serve myself, I'm always thinking about how can people feel a part of something, which is why we do these webinars with Wellness Innovate. This is the #1 feedback we got over quarantine. Thank you for hosting those weekly webinars. They were my life. They were life-giving. And I can't tell you what that did for me as a person, because this is what I love to do. It's easy for me to show up and to love and to serve and to say, hey, let's rally the troops. Like when all hell breaks loose, I'm like, yo, let's get together. Let's come together. Let's make sure that we stick close together. Let's do whatever it takes. That was easy for us to do with Wellness Innovate. And to hear the feedback of people saying, like, you were our lifeline. Well, that wasn't hard. And for you, in the ways that you are wired to serve, it's not going to be hard. It's not like you have to ponder this for a long time. I bet you even right now you're thinking, yeah, I never thought of the way I show up is the way people need. And I just need to look on the outside. So who do you need to listen to, and who can you serve? And I think if we focused on those two things, not only would our human relationships in general be great, but I believe our businesses will be great. And I believe that there's no opposition and there's no obstacle that can stop you when you have these two big toolkits in your side. So just want to say thank you so much to our guests. And I'm wondering if anyone had any other questions before we go. I'd hate to leave, but if you have questions, I think there's one in the Q&A box here. Bonnie asking, she wonders what your thoughts are, Graham, about integrating heart and mind so it feeds our ability to manifest our vision.
I mean, I think that's, if those aren't connected, I think we're completely disjointed. Heart and mind need to be one for it to be authentic and genuine. And I think oftentimes we think the mind's got to take over. I know the times where I drop the ball is when I try to outsmart the heart, and the mind tries to take over, and it's not about anything more than just, I got to outthink this thing. And the moment I lose the heart half of that equation, I fall. And yeah, I think it's a hard thing to describe, but it's an alignment of heart and mind.
No, thanks for that. Thanks for that, Graham. Any closing thoughts from you, Arash?
I would like to thank you guys, and like, you know, as Abe mentioned, that I see serving as like listening too. Like, you know, I see everywhere that I see is like listening plays an important role, and is listening to the heart and listening to what's happening with other people, and 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 like, you know, as you mentioned, Connie, that there will be no resignation, there will be no other resentment. Like, you know, if we actually look at it as like what we can serve, what we can give rather than what we get out of it. Yeah.
That's so good. And Arash, what is the name of your podcast?
It's called Chai Gush. It's in Farsi. We are thinking that maybe we have Chai Gush. Chai means tea, Gush means ear. It's like tea time. So we drink tea and we listen to the story. And we might have an English version coming out soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
one last thing, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to share with you is, Connie, you mentioned that you're all about community, and you know, these conferences and these webinars that you've put up over COVID have been, I'm sure, helpful to people that have mentioned it to you, but I hope you understand how helpful they've been to people that probably haven't mentioned it to you, and the things that happen outside in the world based on what you and Connie are doing. The community continues to grow and expand and manifest themselves in that abundance model. And I'd love to give you a quick example, if you don't mind, that since the last time I've been on chatting with you guys, I was very, very fortunate to have Shaw Communications reach out to me because there was an impressive lady that was on here that was in charge of communications and marketing with Shaw, that was on one of your talks. And she enjoyed the message, came to the brewery, brought a film crew, bought a whole bunch of beer for her marketing team because of the conference that you guys put on and the talk we gave. And that has continued to manifest itself into an actual commercial that's been playing on TV all across Canada thousands of times a day, it seems, from how many friends of mine are frustrated with seeing me in their living room all night. But because of what you folks are doing, our business thrived throughout COVID because Shaw Communications put us on TV all across this country. And that's because of you guys. And so our business owes you guys an incredible debt of gratitude for what you're doing, because the benefit of what you're doing is happening in ways that I don't think you even realize. And our business and my family and our employees are all incredibly thankful for you and what you've done. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, Graham. Well, and you know, the good news is, and you know, we'll turn over to Connie to close in just a second, but you know, we're looking at you know, continuing. Obviously, as you know, we took a nice break over the summer, but the biggest thing I believe is that every time we have a conversation, I love hearing about that business result, but there's just so many other benefits, which is just so much worth the time and the energy, right? And it's just hard to argue because, you know, I mean, I love that story is so great, Graham. So thanks for sharing it. But it's also just the fact that people are looking for that connection. We've heard it all day. And so, you know, thanks for that. So all of you who are listening, you know, please be watching for the emails and check our social media channels because we're going to certainly be continuing in some form or another.
No, thank you so much, everyone. And again, thank you, Arash and Graham, for your time and for your encouragement, and for everyone who's here. I can't wait to hear if you went and served someone or listened to someone. We would love to hear what you did. That's not to brag. It's not to do anything other than the fact of sharing it. We would love to hear. It would be amazing. And if you're open to us sharing it with our network, we would be very happy to share that too. So thank you, everyone, for coming, and keep leading strong.
Absolutely. And
I'm going to listen to Luke and order Uber Eats for him for lunch.
That's right. Yeah. Order some for Connie too.
Yeah.
She's,
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys. Much appreciated.
guys.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.